Here this morning, even if it's in a simple setting, but to do something that we regard as quite central and critical to our existence as a people. Guaranteeing food security for Nigeria. In fact, when you talk about national security, there is perhaps nothing more important in that equation as food security. Wandie, you have a mandate. If you can't do this in 35 minutes, please do it in a maximum of 40 minutes. Thank you very much.
Okay, I stand on all existing protocols. Thank you for the speech. Thank you, Adelaja is actually my old boss. Everybody has been talking about solutions, opportunities, but I want to talk about the real issues. Agropreneurs have challenges. They want to discuss the problems they have. So we'll start out with just everybody on the panel sharing their insights about their experience and what they're going through, the issues they have, and just pretty much just in 1 minute. We'll start with Mrs. Ndidi Nwuneli.
My name is Ndidi Nwuneli. I'm the co-founder of AACE Foods, and AACE Foods is an agro-processing company which was established in 2009. And what we do is basically source from farmers across Nigeria and process for the local markets. And we started AACE Foods because we saw a huge gap in the market. Two of the statistics that were shared by the professor from the Netherlands, the high rates of post-harvest losses, and the critical challenges around processing in the local economy. And we decided to start a company that would address these challenges, and we started with spices and complementary food. We currently work with 10,000 farmers across northern Nigeria and the southwest as well, sourcing about 20 commodities. We provide microfinance to the farmers, we train them, and we equip them with technology, and then we process for the local market. So we have complementary food, soya maize, and Soso Nourish that fights moderate malnutrition. We have beans flour as well, and then we have 13 spices that are wholly indigenous spices catering to the local taste buds. We cater to two target customers, B2B customers, business to business, displacing the imports that a lot of the FMCGs were importing, and then we're in about 8 states, supplying all the major supermarkets, caterers. And it's been an interesting experience because agro-processing and moving down the value chain has been ignored. Most FMCGs in Nigeria package imported produce. And so going back to the value chain and actually building that distribution channel has been a very interesting experience, and one that I can talk a bit more about as the panel progresses. Thank you.
Can we have Mr. Onyeka Akumah?
My name is Onyeka Akumah, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Farmcrowdy. Farmcrowdy is a matchmaking site that connects farmers, real farmers, with sponsors. Individuals, middle-class people like all of us in the hall, who may be interested in investing in agriculture or sponsoring a farm or getting into it without necessarily understanding how to go about it, without necessarily understanding the risk involved. What these people do is we provided a website for them to come onto and sponsor real farmers across maize, cassava, rice, and poultry farms. So an individual comes on our site, he picks up a maize farm, and he sponsors an acre to a hectare, depending on the quantity he wants. Then we match him up with a farmer, and we stay in the middle of the process to ensure that production happens according to what the individual requires, but more importantly, off-takers that are going to buy off the farm produce from us, meeting the demand that they require. In the process of doing this, we've signed up over 1,500 farmers across the country in 6 months of launching our product. And it has seen us get over 2,000 acres of farmland from these farmers who provide, more of them are subsistence farmers, small-scale farmers with 1 to 2 hectares, who make their farms available to us for us to improve their yield, for us to enable them earn more for their farming practice. And we've touched the base across states like Ogun State, Ibadan, Oyo State, where we do heavy poultry. We've also touched places in Jos, where we have over 500 hectares and over 500 farmers who are into maize. And we've also touched places in Edo State. Now, across all of these places where we've touched different sets of farms and farmers, we've seen a common challenge where farmers are not quite aware about many of the farm practices that will enable them to do more. For instance, we're in Sabongidaura in Edo State, where we found a challenge where a farmer said they do not know how to use fertilizer. This was just last week.
Please, can we have Angel Adelaja?
My name is Angel Adelaja. I'm CEO of Fresh Direct Produce and Agro-Allied Services. And we're pretty much doing city farming with stackable container farms. So we're taking hydroponics, vertical farming, and indoor farming technology inside 20-foot and 40-foot shipping containers. And we're able to take that and grow inside one container what you could grow on an acre of land. So we're growing high-quality premium produce, mostly cold weather crops that don't normally grow in Nigeria. We're growing them within the city limits of Abuja, within Amak. So we're, I think, 4 minutes from next cash and carry in Abuja, if anyone's aware of that. And the reason that we got into this type of farming is because when we started, we were facing the same things that many other Nigerian farmers faced. When the foreign exchange prices became very difficult, when the cost of petrol and diesel went up, when the issues in terms of poor road and storage and other issues made it very difficult for us to farm, we said, how do we improve the value chain? Not necessarily by improving some of these technologies, because we couldn't do that and we couldn't really wait for others to do some of those things for us in terms of infrastructure. We said we're going to bring the farm closer to market. So part of our technology is making sure that urban farmers can grow at market with ease, and also that we can introduce new exciting farmers. You don't necessarily have to look like a farmer, you don't necessarily have to be a farmer, but with our technology you're able to learn how to farm relatively easy, and it's fun, and you do it in a controlled, nice and cool environment, and it's going to be something that brings a lot of youth on board. And in the span of a year, we've been able to go from 2 containers to now 10 containers, and if you do the math, each container is about an acre of land, so you can do the math for yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we have Mr. Rotimi Williams?
My name is Rotimi Williams. My introduction is going to be very simple. I'm a rice farmer. We have 45,000 hectares of land available for cultivation in Nasarawa State, of which we've only scratched the surface so far due to funding issues and whatnot. But we've also ventured into milling, which is processing as well. All along I've heard a lot of them talk about opportunities in the rice value chain or agriculture. I'm hoping that as the conversation grows, we're able to touch on the issues in agriculture, which for me is very important, because if I knew about these things before going in, maybe I'll have prepared myself better. With the cost of land clearing, you have issues with cattle grazing, you have issues with irrigation, and even market. We've touched on how government is supporting agriculture, but we also need to look at issues where government action also hinders the agribusiness itself. So I'm hoping we're able to touch on this as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rotimi. Now, can we have Mr. Lawrence Tamunokiri?
My name is Lawrence Tamunokiri, and I'm a fish farmer. I've been farming for about 8 years now. Basically, what I'm here to discuss is the app, 2 of our products that we have on ground. First is the Farmer's Creed. What we've tried to do with Farmer's Creed is take the experience and expertise of knowledgeable farmers and break it down into simple daily tasks. So what we've done is we tell the new farmer or the fresh farmer what to do on a daily basis using daily tasks. So all he needs to do is look at our app and know what to do on a daily basis and get the same result as an experienced farmer would get. While that is taking place, we also cover management, the monitoring of the entire farm, record keeping, and also monitoring. Monitoring is actually an issue when you have an investment and you're not on ground at all times. With the app, we have checks and balances we've been able to put in place that can help you monitor your business. The second is Alpha Farm Estates. Alpha Farm Estates is a concept to make farming easy. What we've tried to do with that is a typical farming estate, a typical housing estate, sorry. What we've done is divide the entire plot of land, 10 hectares of land, which we presently have in Abuja, into farming plots. We give this land out free of charge for those interested in agriculture. What you do is you come in with your investment on that plot of land, and at harvest, we actually share profits. So we provide you with your utilities, we provide you with security, we provide you with experienced personnel if you need some, and provide you with a market for your products. So all you're coming in is your investment, and at the end, we share profits. And at the end of 4 years, that same land becomes yours. So basically, you're renting to own that same piece of land.
Thank you. Last but not the least, we have Mrs. Mosun Umoru.
I've been a practitioner in the agribusiness sector for upwards 13 years, straight out of college. I'm a farmer. Our business produces chickens. We focus on poultry production. We have a farm in Ogun State and in Osun State. And recently I transitioned from being a CEO to being appointed as an advisor to the Honorable Minister at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to leverage my experience as a practitioner in the ag sector and as a young Nigerian myself to help promote policies that will engage young people in the ag space, change the narrative around the drudgery of agriculture, and help promote coherence, youth inclusive policies that would bring more focus on supporting more young people and women in taking up agribusiness as a career path and help Nigeria attain food security, help us create jobs, and also help us increase our productivity as a nation and bring about import substitution. As we go on, I would love to share some of the initiatives that are in the pipeline at the ministry and some of the solutions that young people can actually leverage on to either start their own businesses or collaborate with others who are in the agribusiness space to actually drive the sector forward. Thank you.
So I will start with Mrs. Ndidi Nwuneli. You do AACE Foods does spices. So I wanted to find out how have you been able to meet the quality standards? Is it local standard compared to international standards? And how have you been able to compete with imported brands?
So the first thing is, in terms of standards, sadly, there are very few established standards for spices. And SON is just in the process of developing local standards. And that's why you see such wide varieties of what quality spices are. Just the other day, I was in the factory and my team showed me a spice that's being sold for half the price of ours, and it's garlic. And we're sure it's not garlic. We're sure it says 100% garlic, but we're sure that it's some type of powder that's basically made to smell like garlic, because there's no way that it could be sold for the price it's being sold at. And now when you, and the properties are definitely not garlic properties. Now, the reality is we've shared this information with NAFDAC about how you actually check for adulteration. We're seeing adulterated chili, ginger, garlic, black pepper, all the major spices are adulterated. And sadly, there's very little recourse for bad behavior. So I think one of the things that I'm going to put clearly in the open domain here is that Nigerians are killing Nigerians because of what we're importing into this country and packaging, and it has to stop. When we look at the indicators and see how our life expectancy is 57, it's unacceptable. If you source locally, you actually help farmers. You create an entire value chain and you feed your people. Now, this is not just about standards with spices. This cuts across tomato paste, milk. There's so much adulteration in the market. So it cuts across every single aspect of our value chain. The second thing you asked about was around competition. Now, I would say that our local spices are very competitive relative to imports. But when you have adulteration, you can't compete. But if you're looking at 100% quality products, Nigerian spices can compete on every single angle. We actually have the best ginger in the world. And we recently exported ginger to Netherlands because Nigerian ginger is considered high quality and the best in the world. So I think if you look across the board for every single value chain, we can compete. Now, another ask of the government is around mapping. I said this under the previous administration, and I'm asking the current administration to do a mapping of our value chain. Every single SME literally has to go and find their own farmers, train them, and prepare them to supply us. And Scale has supported us to do that. But the truth is, how many SMEs want to do the heavy lifting over 8 years to find 10,000 farmers? The biggest limit to our growth right now is supply chain. We could be 10 times bigger than we are, but we have to find the farmers. So if the government could do a simple mapping and say, this is the map of Nigeria, these are the 36 states. In every single state, these are clusters of farmers who are looking for you. Here is where you can find them. That would be a fantastic contribution and a lasting contribution to development in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What I never could understand was why local standards and international standards, why we have separate standards for international products and products we're exporting and local consumption.
For many of our products, we don't even have standards. That's the point I'm trying to make. So for most of the spices, even something as basic as gari, there's very little, there's nothing you can open up and say, this is a standard for what qualifies as gari or bean flour. And that's why, or yam flour, that's why someone can import potato flour into Nigeria and label it yam flour, 100% yam flour, and you guys are buying it. Because nobody has said this is what yam flour is. And so we need to do, it's a very basic activity, but SON says they need funding to do it. So I'm just putting that back at the seat of government to say private sector is willing to partner with public sector to develop standards to protect the lives of Nigerians.
Thank you very much, thank you. So Mr. Onyeka, Farmcrowdy, so it's amazing how everybody wants to invest in farming. If you have a 9 to 5, if you live abroad, everybody's calling you, oh, I want to invest in agriculture. Agriculture is the new oil. So now you have farm sponsors, if I'm not mistaken, and then you connect them with farmers, right? And they sponsor the farm, they get daily updates. What are the risks? What happens if, for instance, the farmer goes with the produce? Who is monitoring them? Who's auditing them? What happens if there's a pest situation? Do we get guarantee of how much? People want to know, just pretty much explain how it works and how people can invest and how safe is it? What are the risks? How do you cover the risk?
When you sponsor a farmer, the money you put into that farm is not given to the farmer directly first. So the farmer doesn't take the money and just go and marries another wife. But what happens is we first say, what are the inputs this farmer will need to go from pre-production to actually producing the farm produce and get it to the end of harvest. So the entire chain is dissected into several steps, and then the farmer tells us what exactly he needs in each step, from seedlings or fertilizer to land clearing, whatever the needs are. We first go there, assess this, make sure the farmer is right with this. We have farm extension officers we work with across the different local governments. We also have farm supervisors we hire. Who help us to manage the farmers right there on the farms. Prior to us also getting these farmers, we approach the community leaders for them to give us the farmers that they can trust and the farmers that they can vouch for, that will give us the expected return after. So there's some level of responsibility from the community with the farmer. We don't just get into the community and sign up a farmer. So this helps us with making sure with the credibility of the farmer, we get the right farmers first. And in monitoring the farmers with our farm supervisors, with the farm extension officers that have been designated to various local governments that we work with also our team that constantly visits the farm, we're able to get the right data per time. In providing the inputs, we do regular trainings. And so a farmer that hasn't used fertilizer, like I was mentioning, for instance, before we give him fertilizer to use, we make him understand what exactly does he need for a hectare, or for an acre of what he's producing. We do regular trainings with the farmers in partnership with the likes of Notori, in partnership with the likes of other fertilizer providers. We make sure that we have these farmers go through regular trainings so that at the end of the process, the farmer is able to meet up with the demand that is required on the farm. The farmer is able to understand how to move from stage A of producing 1.5 tons per hectare to stage B of producing 3 tons per hectare, meeting up with the required quality and quantity that our off-takers demand from these farmers. So these are processes we put in place, and these are checks and points we have. in addition to that is that we've gone into partnership with the likes of Leadway Assurance to protect the farmers' produce, to protect the farm inputs, the cost of the input going into the farm from the farm sponsors, such that if there's pest, if there's disease, if there's something we can't control, that insurance is able to protect or guarantee that some level of return still gets back to the farmer and he doesn't entirely lose the whole farm. Also for the farm sponsor, he's able to see that some level of protection is given to his farm sponsorship. And if anything goes wrong on the farm, Leadway Assurance is able to step into that. We're tying up such relationships also with the likes of AXA Mansard to help us with goods in transit, moving the farm produce from the farm to aggregate points across major cities where this farm produce will be sold. And so these are several steps we're taking in order to manage the process.
Thank you. So everybody that wants to invest, you don't want to get down and dirty, Farmcrowdy.
Farmcrowdy.com.
Thank you. So next is for Angel Adelaja. So please explain in layman terms, hydroponics. What comparison the yields with normal soil or growing in the normal container farms? Just pretty much explain to what people, everybody doesn't know what it is. So explain in layman terms and how the advantages of growing in a container farm.
Okay. So in basic terms, when you think about what plants need, they need nutrients they get from the soil. They need water and they need light. And so when you use hydroponics, it's like taking a fruit salad that you would eat versus taking a smoothie where you would juice that fruit salad. So what we do is we put that nutrients in water and the plants are able to absorb that nutrients much faster. So with hydroponics, there's so many components. You can do basic hydroponics with chemicals, which we try to avoid, and we focus on organic hydroponic farming. With aquaponics, you're using the waste of fish to feed your produce. And then you also have aeroponics, which is a newer technology, where instead of the roots being suspended in water, you're actually growing the plants in air, and you're misting the roots with the water, and it's getting its nutrients that way. And studies have shown that plants actually prefer to get their nutrients in that way versus traditional hydroponics and traditional ground planting. So with hydroponic farming, because it's something that you can use in any locale, you can use it on your balcony, you can use it in your backyard, you can use it in greenhouses, you can use it on a boat, you can use it on a rooftop. We're just happening to use it inside shipping containers. We also use it in our greenhouses as well. But it means that if you're able to make it in a modular way and you're able to stack rows of hydroponic farming on top of each other, you now get into this concept of vertical farming, where land is no longer your constraint, but your focus is now on how much height, how much space you have vertically. And so the beauty about that is that Nigeria is continually urbanizing. And so more people are moving into the inner cities. And what happens is that these inner cities need to be fed, and our rural areas are not able to meet that demand. So with urban farming and with this technology, we're able to bring the market, the produce to market and grow within our surroundings. I think one of the issues for me that I have is that because it's something new to Nigeria, not everybody understands that farming is not just about the rural community. I'm growing things that the rural community is not growing. I don't want to compete with my rural farmers. They are growing things such as staple crops that may have a longer shelf life. I'm focusing on things that are competing with the import market. And if we can synergize on that, then we're able to make sure that we boost Nigeria's agricultural sector through strategic synergies. So focusing on urban lands, I know Abuja has done a great job in terms of designating agricultural spaces, green spaces, and residential spaces. But then, I mean, one thing, the beauty about the Netherlands is that they've found ways to completely intermix residential, commercial, agricultural, green spaces into one, where you have an office space that has a rooftop farm. So when you start to think differently, you're able to now create an ecosystem through urban farming in your urban cities, and you're able to bring fresh, premium produce to your consumers as quickly as 15 minutes, which is what I guarantee to my customers.
Thank you. So one of the questions I have for you is your clients that bought the container farms, are they for personal use or commercial use? If they're for commercial use, Where are they selling to?
We farm using our technology.
Yeah.
So our customers are the businesses, the grocery
Okay.
stores, the restaurants, the hotels.
Okay.
And so we grow in the city and we onboard youth to grow with us. So the next stage of our business is to be able to work with CBN or the Ministry of Agriculture to provide small loans to young farmers so that they can franchise this technology and grow with us, so that we're not necessarily scaling on our own, but we're scaling as a community, because that's the whole essence of African culture, is the power of community. So we want to be able to make sure that young people can come on board. We have so many young people that have left their hometowns, that are wandering in the cities looking for jobs, and instead of them being a burden to society, they can be the ones that are building society through agriculture. So.
Thank you, Angel. So, Mr. Williams, everybody knows in the rice industry, the second largest farm. Am I mistaken? So the question I have for you is, there's a new rice revolution. Everybody's talking about rice. And everybody's getting into the industry. Productivity-wise, I guess Nigeria has made more tonnage, we're growing more. So how is that going to affect the price of rice, the ratio of price of rice? And one of the other questions I have for you is, your farm is located in Tunga, Nasarawa. How have you been able to work peacefully with the Fulani herdsmen? How can other farms replicate the same thing you're doing?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the price issue. The Honourable Minister mentioned earlier about tackling the whole smuggling of rice and also the dumping of tomato paste in Nigeria. And they've done the same thing for rice. However, right, there's still a lot of rice coming into the market. I was traveling from Ewekoro in Ogun State to Lagos 2 days ago. And all I saw, now they've become very smart. They don't use trucks anymore. All I saw were taxis loaded with rice, bags of rice, all headed in the same direction, back to back. And they're all moving in the evening. Now, we still have a lot of rice coming into this country. And now that dollar is dropping, right, it also means that the cost of rice coming in is cheaper, which means that we are able to compete less with imported rice. That's one thing. Now, I was going to mention earlier, right, government has done a lot of work in encouraging the youth and the young in getting involved in agriculture. However, I don't think the cost has also been counted on some of the actions by government itself. This time last year, we're all celebrating the MOU between Lagos State and Kebbi, right? Fantastic initiative. But here's the thing. Lagos State sold its rice, lake rice, at 12,000 naira per bag in Lagos. I'm one of the entrepreneurs that was encouraged to go into agriculture. I grow my own rice. My own cost is 16,000 naira per bag. How am I supposed to compete with government when you subsidize the price of rice instead of subsidizing the inputs for rice? Now, these are the issues I think that need to be looked at. So these are the issues that need to be touched on. Now, on the other issue with Fulani, I mean, there's been a lot of talk recently about Fulani headmen killing. It's a bit of a touchy subject, so I'm going to be very careful walking around it. Last year, I had about 20 hectares of my farm destroyed by Fulani cattle, the cattle. And there were two options. It was either you take them to court, you argue, you fight, or you let it go. But our solution was more pragmatic. What we chose to do essentially was to engage them. Like, we know, okay, if this is your house, you will not rob your own house. You won't destroy your own house. So come work for us. Provide security for us, which they did. Now, come harvest, we had issues with laborers coming to harvest. So we decided to invite their women over to come harvest for us. And we realized how well the Fulani women worked. Now, the issue with Fulani women, and here's the thing, we always say women are a marginalized group in this society, right? But the Fulani women are a marginalized group within a marginalized group. When you talk about unemployment, they're never involved, but they work hard. And what we then decided to do was to convert it from employment into training. So the first training we did, we asked for 50 people to come. We had about 100 people show up. The following season, we moved it to 100 people. And now we're trying to do a bit more, but obviously there's funding issues. And luckily, we have the British American Tobacco Foundation that stepped in to assist to ensure that this program is a success and it can be replicated. Because with this family crisis up and down the country, there's no way if you involve them in what you're doing, they'll be destroying farmlands. It's not possible. You know, a man will not come and destroy the farm where his wife grew her rice. So it's a workable solution, and I think it needs to be explored by government.
Thank you, very interesting. Thank you. Mr. Lawrence Tamunokiri. So your app, I want you to explain a little bit for everybody to understand. Is it more of fish aquaculture?
For now, it's for aquaculture. With time, we're going to develop it for other livestock and crops as well.
Okay, so for a smallholder farmer, how does that work? How is it user-friendly? How do you educate them?
Okay.
Do you give them extension services, or is there a visual app that shows exactly what they're doing?
Basically, what the app does is a simple task management system. It tells you what to do on a daily basis. Basically, like for fish, for example, if you have 3 ponds and you have 1,000 in each pond, which are different sizes, it could tell you pond 1, feed 2 kg, pond 2, feed 1 kg, pond 3, feed. All you have to do is just go and tick. I've done it, I've done it, I've done it. That's the only thing that the person needs to do. And it updates itself. Maybe on a week or 2 weeks later, it tells you, take the average weight of this, this, and this. With that average weight, it recalibrates itself and tells you that this particular pond should be fed with a higher quantity of feed. So it's a very simple thing. For the training aspect, we actually have videos that shows what the person should do. So on the training side of things, if they tell you, okay, feed this pond, that you don't know what to do, you go to the training side of it, and it will show you exactly how you should feed the fish, or how you should perform the water change, or how you should perform the weight sampling, for example. So it's a very simple task, simple method. Also on the area of record keeping, with those simple daily tasks, it does the record keeping in the back end seamlessly. So the person doesn't need to go through the process of writing down all he has done and all of that. It basically automatically takes the records of everything the person has done on his farm. So record keeping is done seamlessly as well.
So if I'm a tomato farmer and I register on your app, and you tell me, with this process, you can grow up to, you get probably like about 18 tons per hectare, and I follow everything, and I get 3 tons. What happens? Do you?
Right now it's for fish, but generally if you follow fishes, for now, fish is garbage in, garbage out. It's simple. So all you do is you follow the same procedures, you get the same results.
Okay.
All you have to do is replicate what somebody else that is successful in that particular thing, what he has done. If I have like an netting pond, if I follow what the person that has a netting pond with the same water quality, if I follow what he has done, I'll get the same result. That's basically what we're trying to do. Replicate what somebody else has done in a simple daily task system.
Thank you very much. Last but not the least, Ms. Mosun. So Ms. Mosun, you've been a farmer for over 14 years. You've worked in the private sector, you've had a business, you own a business. So now you've been able to transition to the public sector. Right. What are the values? What values are you adding to the public sector? What policies, programs are you currently working on to champion your cause? Because someone that's been in your position, what value are you adding?
So primarily, one of the largest gaps that we've identified beyond access to land and inputs and all of that is that there's a deficit of skills within the agricultural sector. So a lot of young people have actually gone to tertiary institutions, gained formal education, and many people lack the requisite skills that the industry requires today. So one of the things the policies that is being promoted at the ministry level is to work in collaboration with the state government and the ADPs to ensure that we can work hard at building the capacity of our young persons in country. A lot of the agribusinesses that are being set up will require workers across different spectrums. And it's important that we build our young people to fill those skills gaps. It may interest you to know that many farms in Nigeria are actually going across the border to actually go and hire workforce. For me, one of the things I've taken back into this position is to ensure that the government invests in skills development, capacity building, and we're working on financing tools to create easy access to finance for young persons, especially the brownfields, like the people sitting at this panel, who've taken the bold step to kickstart their own business without funding or support from the government. The Honorable Minister of State mentioned that the Federal Universities of Agriculture, the 3 universities have been taken back by the ministry. One of the reasons that drove that was to use our own tertiary institutions for capacity development in country. Beyond that, we have also identified that there's a need to leverage technology. The older farmers are not particularly open to leveraging new technology like Angel is doing with her hydroponic systems. And we are working at providing that enabling environment that would attract more young people that can use technology. For instance, Ndidi has mentioned the need for mapping of farmers. For us to map farmers, we even need to understand where the farmers are, what they're farming, the commodities that they're focused on producing, and we're using young people, we're starting training for the use of drone technology to actually begin to do mappings of the areas where farmers are situated, so we can actually position our local farmers to produce in higher quantities and meet the demand, both for local domestic consumptions and for export.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry, we're running out of time. We have to leave, but thank you, and thanks for the opportunity, Businessday.